Welcome to round 3 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of August 26th. I'm Nicole Erdix, and I'm here with Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
And Terry Morrow.
Hello.
We're moms of teens and young adults, and when it comes to parenting, we've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But we're still waiting for the day when we'll reach the finish line and have no further need to lay down in a dark room with a wet rag over our eyes worrying about something or other. Wednesday is complaint day here on Parenting Roundabout, and today we are complaining about high school schedules. Now, Catherine has her own little issue with high school schedules, but I thought I would start with my issue that I've had with high school schedules since my kids, started high school and now have subsequently finished, and that is the start time of high school. Mm-hmm. They had like a daily schedule where they went to every class each day. But our school here in California, the high school started at 7:30 a.m. and then ended at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm telling you, that was just so hard on everybody involved.
Yeah.
It was such a bad time. And I know they say that, well, even if we were to start school later, the kids would still go to bed later, but it was inhumane. Well,
and there is like scientific evidence that their body clocks just work that way, that they naturally want to stay up later and wake up later. It's just the way their brains work at that age.
And so like 2 years ago, I became involved in kind of this local movement to start school later. There's actually an organization, I believe it's national, it's called Start School Later. And so one of my friends created the community branch that we live in here, and her and I were part of that, trying to advocate to get the schools to start later. Because, there's a lot of medical evidence that says that early start times are not only a risk to the student themselves, but a risk to others because they're driving to school tired, they're coming home tired, their decision-making skills are not the greatest. So there's a lot of side effects to this type of a schedule. And when she pushed it, because she did a lot of the legwork, she found out that the reason for this early schedule, at least in our area, was because of busing. Mm-hmm. Because they had to, get around busing, and then the high school sports. Mm. So, a lot of the sports teams were reliant on certain times of the day. And it just made no sense because there are schools in other parts of the state that don't start that early and still manage to have all their busing and sports teams coordinated. Right. So it just seemed like it was a decision that was made by a couple of people, and they stuck to it because, maybe it was because they needed daycare or something. Mm-hmm. But it just it didn't work. And it didn't work for didn't work for my daughter. It didn't work for my son. It didn't work for a lot of their friends. I mean, she was exhausted 24/7. Mm-hmm. And so I have a huge axe to grind with the start times of schools. Mm-hmm. So, but you have another issue, right, Catherine?
Well, I don't know if it's an issue or not yet, because it's brand new for this upcoming school year that they're going to a block schedule where the kids will have, instead of having, 7 class periods a day, they'll basically have 4 long ones and then it'll be an every other day schedule where, on day 1 they have these 4 classes, and on day 2 they have actually these 3 classes, plus they are doing this advisory, it's called, which is, I think, kind of like a homeroom type thing. Like, it's not a study period. Mm-hmm. I really don't know what they're going to do during that time, so that's one question that I have. So I just don't know. I think that there has also been research on this, and that says that it's good, that, teachers like it, that they have more time with their students. They can do work time as well as like lectures or whatever they're doing. So I don't know. I'm keeping an open mind, but I'm curious as to how it's going to go. But, when I look at my kids' schedules, I'm like, oh, this is kind of, you automatically have at least 2 days to do homework, right? Because you don't have that class the next day. So that seems good. And my daughter says that the teachers have been told that they can't give you twice as much homework because you have 2 days to do it in. So I hope that's the case. I don't know. I mean, Nicole, as a teacher, have you dealt with this? Have you thought about this, the block scheduling?
I haven't ever been part of it as a teacher, but through my high school years, we had block schedule. That's all I've ever known. And we always had kind of a open block to catch up and whatnot. And that's the same thing that I've heard, because with my daughter, there's another high school in town that did block schedule. Her school didn't. And her friends were able to stay far more on top of their work than what she did. Because they had this kind of study hall type thing where they could catch up on work. And it just seemed like the homework wasn't an every night thing.
Right.
It alternated. It wasn't, every subject every night for homework. It was they get history like every second or third night type thing. So it just seemed to really it work for. It was helpful for kids who didn't have a lot of time outside of school.
Yeah,
they were able to keep up with it inside of school. So yeah, they really liked it.
Well, if that's the case, that would work well for my son, who is not real good at doing work outside. Not the greatest at doing it in school either, I have to say, but I feel like if everybody's doing it and if that's the way the class time is set up, then maybe he'll, I don't know.
No, the people that, they had nothing bad to say about it. They were, it was good.
Good.
It would have been great if Kristen could have had that opportunity. I think it would have worked for her. But,
and it is more like a university schedule.
Yeah, that's very true. It's a good preparation.
The every other day and slightly longer class time.
Is it one that rotates where you start period 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, and then the next day would be 6, and then back to 1, 2? Is it that kind of?
No, it's day 1 and day 2. So on day 1, you have, algebra, science, English, and French. And then on day 2, you have choir and history and, some other thing. So you have to keep track of what day it is. And that I've had experience with, did they not do it last year? At the middle school, they did that some of the time that my kids were there, where they had the day 1 and the day 2. And I'd always be like, is it a day 1? Do you need your gym clothes? Do you need your band instrument? Like all that stuff.
You got to write it on the calendar or something so you have it posted to remember.
1, 2.
Because otherwise it's impractical. So is this hard for some kids for whom a longer class session is not necessarily a good thing? I mean, I think of my antsy boy, and a regular class is hard, and then it's good to get that period of walking around in between. So,
well, I think the idea is to not so much lecture for that entire time, but to have the kids doing some type of follow-up activity, and then the teacher monitoring, assessing it, time for some, lab work.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope that's the way they'll do it, but you never want to count on something being done the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
As with everything else, it's going to be good for some learners and bad for some learners.
Yeah.
And, it's just the ones for whom the existing thing was bad get their turn now.
Right.
So, and somebody else who will be unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you have that one class that you feel good and valued in, and now you only get it half as often, I don't know.
Yeah, but you're in there for a longer time. Yeah.
I will think of problems for any setting.
Well, and
it's my job.
For my daughter, speaking of late start, she got a free period for the first class of the day, just for the first semester, but so, you know, I believe it's both day 1 and day 2 that she has the first block free, so she does not have to go to school. So she gets to start school at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Nice.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
That just seems
great.
I wonder, it'll be interesting to see if she has trouble getting going then. I mean, if you start your day doing one thing and then you have to switch at that particular time to sitting in a classroom and concentrating.
Yeah.
That might be a challenge.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see what she does.
Yeah.
She said, maybe I'll exercise. You know, maybe I'll go to the gym. Okay.
Then you're laughing.
I mean, she might.
Maybe I'll sleep until,
Right.
10 o'clock and then
be late.
would be my concern. Yeah. I see here that our high school also starts at 7:29.
Yeah.
So, but there's this thing in New Jersey now where the state wants to do a pilot program and have a certain number of schools do a later start, and no schools are volunteering. So it seems to be a possibility that they won't be able to get anybody to do it. I don't know if they can force them, but just amongst the smallish sample of people on Facebook from around here, it seems like the parents are not real excited at the prospect. So,
Well, no, because they have to leave early to commute into the city.
True.
So they need to get their kids to school early.
Yeah. I know. It was never that much of a problem for us, but we live right next door to the school, so we didn't need a lot of lead time. They could sleep a little later.
I think in the suburbs where there's commuters, because I know, like, when I worked in the city, like right in the city, but I lived in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And the suburbs, our school started 45 minutes before my job started in teaching. So my son's school started at like 8:15.
Yeah.
And then when I went to work in the city, like I'd drive in, and then our school started at 9 where I work.
Yeah.
So.
And I know, the buses, I guess, is it as they do here, because they rotate the same buses through the 3 levels of schooling. So you have to space everything out. Oh, jeez. You hear that thunder rolling outside? Oh, and the rain is going to come down too. Oh, well. Listeners, if you hear rain and thunder, somebody's angry about me talking.
I'll live vicariously through you because it's dry and hot here.
But, they have to, if they use the same buses for the high school, the middle schools, and the elementary schools, they have to space them out enough. And so somebody's got to go early and somebody's got to go late. So the elementary schools start a little bit late. I guess the middle schools get the sweet spot. But switch it. Just buy more buses. Raise our tax dollars.
New Jersey doesn't pay enough taxes. Come on.
Oh my gosh. See our discussion of my traumatic tax payment from last week.
All right.
Traumatic on so many different levels.
We should call it a day here so that we don't have to continue tormenting you with that. With that thought.
I have to go hit my head against something for a little bit.
That's it for today's round 3. Tune in tomorrow when we'll obsess about our kids' career paths, and then come back on Friday to see what we've come up with for our Roundabout Roundup picks this week. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.